Good morning from the Winkler Homestead. It's Alicia here again this morning. Here in a little bit I'm going to get the boys because they love this sort of thing, and we're going to tap some more trees. I just took a peek at some of the jugs we put out yesterday and there's not much sap in them. I'm hoping that means we aren't too late, but maybe a little early. But I am going to talk to you a little bit about that because I had a couple of questions yesterday and this morning about maple tapping. Is it too late? Well, that depends a lot on your area, where you are, and what your trees are doing right now. We're in southern Indiana. Unfortunately, the maple trees started to bud. That's not a good thing when you're wanting to tap, because the buds mean that the sap isn't running as freely through the trees. Instead, it is being concentrated to leaf growth. Being that yesterday was the end of January, normally it would have been plenty of time, but we had a couple of warm days a couple of weeks ago where it got up around 70. And, well, now we have some buds. If you look up at some of these trees, now that's maple branches right there, and you can see they do have some buds. That's what I'm talking about. So if you're further north than I am, you probably don't have that issue. If you are further south, it may be too late. Sorry. Still, I recommend trying. Give it a little try. If you have the supplies, especially go and give it a try. If you have to order supplies, you might want to just hold off till next year. Nothing in the bucket? Shoot fire. Well, either that means we are too late or too early. Are there certain types of maple trees to tap that you can only tap? And the answer to that is no. You can tap any maple tree. The reason most people tap sugar maples is because the sugar content is actually higher in the sap, which means it takes less sap to make syrup. Next year, when I'm at the farm during the winter, we have a maple grove behind the cabin, so I'm looking forward to tapping that. But also we have a whole lot of black walnut trees, and I'm going to experiment and make a separate syrup with those. I'm planning to tap the black walnut trees. Now, the reason you don't hear people say, oh, this is walnut syrup, you hear maple syrup, is because maple, even if it's not sugar maple, still has a higher sugar content in the sap than most other trees. But there are a lot of different kinds of trees you can tap. And if you're curious about what do I have that I can tap, I don't have any maples, try Google. See if you can come up with something else, because there are actually several different varieties of trees that provide a sap that is a quality that can be evaporated for syrup. Is why on earth would you make your own maple syrup? Isn't it easier to just go to the store and buy it? And the answer to that is yes. Yes, it's easier, because putting the taps in and checking the sap every day is time consuming, but the real time consuming part comes when it's time to evaporate. I mentioned yesterday how much sap it takes to boil down or evaporate into syrup, into pure syrup. And it's a lot, and it varies by tree, it varies by species. We do all of our evaporating outside, because if you do it inside, you steam up your entire home, which is not good for your house. And it's really hard to breathe too. We use the open fire sometimes. We have a fire pit down here by the gazebo. We also use a turkey fryer and evaporate in that with a propane tank, which makes it fairly efficient, except for we would like to have an actual evaporator pan, a big pan, because the more surface area that is opened up, the faster it's going to evaporate. The reason we decided to make our own syrup was a couple of reasons. Number one, we were concerned about, the commercialized pancake syrup. those actually have flavoring of maple in them, not real maple syrup. They are mostly corn syrup, and if you know anything about corn syrup, you know it's not the healthiest thing out there. I'm sorry, my dog is down here making a lot of noise. Meme, what are you doing? This is Meme. This is Meme. So we decided to switch to regular syrup, and the problem was that it was expensive. It's expensive to buy maple syrup. So as I was saying, the reason we decided to start tapping our syrup, our own trees, was because we had 2 acres of almost entirely woods. And although we grow a small garden, I'll show you how big our garden has been the past several years, and we tried to successionally plant and to rotate our crops out, we wanted to do more for ourselves, more for our own food, more for our children's health, our own health. And so being in a low area, you can tell I just came up a hill, low areas are usually moist. Moist areas are good for maple trees. We found that we had a lot of maple trees. So why not tap them? Why not make our own syrup? It's not hard, it's easy. So that's what we did. We started with the metal spiles, and now we use the airline spiles, which I'll show you later. In the meantime, it's messy out here. This is our small garden. It's not very big. We grew a lot of food out here though. Last year, not so much, but before that we did.
But I don't care long as I get his daughter. If he won't give her up, I'm gonna run away. Won't give her up, I'm gonna run away. Won't give her up, I'm gonna run away. Go to North Carolina.
This was a tree we have tapped since the beginning, and you can see like this right here where the tree is healing up. That's probably a hole from 2 years ago. So this is a south facing root, and we're going to try to tap right along this line. And you want to get at a little bit of an angle. Gabriel, hand me a blue spile and the hammer, please.
I'll hand hold it.
You can hand me the next one. It's okay. Not the end of the world. It doesn't have to go in that far. You want to get underneath the bark and into the tree a little bit. But if you get too hard, you take a chance on leaving a hole big enough to let diseases get in as the tree is healing. I'm just setting about the buckets here. These are icing buckets. I get them for free from a local bakery because I know the lady who's the manager and she's wonderful. Some bakeries will give them to you for free if you go ask. Some charge you. Walmart, if we get them from Walmart, they charge us $1. So I like these free ones. Free is always better. And they're food grade, obviously. And since they have had icing in them and not something like raw chicken, I feel like they're a whole lot safer for making syrup with. So I've drilled holes in this bucket, 2 of them, and got a little plastic chip here. So I'm going to open it up and make sure there's no plastic inside. And then I can put 2 of these in here. So here's one. Just goes in here like this. We did put holes on the top one year, and what ended up happening was when it rained, water gathered on the top of the lid and ran into the holes and caused a mess. Way back here in the backwoods. You can see how far our house is, way up there. And we're gonna tap a couple trees we haven't tapped before to see if we have any luck with those. I don't think they want to see it 10 times.
They want to see that.
Yeah, they probably do want to see that because it's just cute.
That's high.
Okay, we just started drilling on this tree and there's already some liquid coming out of here. That's a good sign. What it says to me is I may move some taps to some smaller trees. I don't want to get too deep because this is not a big tree. But I am definitely glad to see some liquid coming out of there.